There's something powerful about the journey of leadership, the daily steps, the long-term vision, and everything we learn along the way. Welcome to Leadership Labs, where we explore these journeys with the incredible leaders of Aurora Public Schools. In each episode, we hear from those who are helping guide our district toward Destination APS, sharing their stories, their challenges, and the lessons they learned along the way. Today, I'm joined by Jaelyn Coates, our Executive Director of Culture, Equity, and Engagement, also known as SEED, wrapping up her third year with APS. Jaelyn and her team have been instrumental in major district initiatives, including our Board of Education's LGBTQIA+ resolution, the Immigrant Community Response Task Force, ensuring every school has both a school accountability committee and completing equity audits. And as the sponsor of our Schools as Community Hub strategy with Destination APS and a JEDI advocate, Jaelyn's work touches every corner of our district. Let's explore her journey and vision for building truly inclusive communities in our schools. Jaelyn, welcome to Leadership Labs.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about who you are first, and then just a little bit about your role as Executive Director of SEED.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Culture, Equity, and Engagement here in APS. And I tell people that's just a lot of language to say that we get to make sure that we kind of put our money where our mouth is when we say that equity is a value, that community is a value, that we really care about each of these things. And so I have the privilege of working with an amazing team who supports schools across our system and making sure that they're bringing community to the table. And when we make decisions, finding opportunities to partner with students, community partners, and families, thinking differently about the programs, the systems, the way that we teach, and how do we make sure that it's truly student-centered, keeps equity at the core, and it's really amazing work. I started my journey in education actually in higher ed. I totally thought I was going to go the kind of student affairs, dean of students, BPSA kind of route. But then learned when I was working in a partnership actually with KIPP Colorado Schools and Colorado State University about more about the experiences our kids were experiencing before they get to higher ed. I had a lot of experiences with kids where they were coming in and saying, you know, Miss, I haven't done anything all year, but it's cool. My teacher's going to make a makeup assignment and I'll be fine. And we would have to have a level setting conversation around that. That's not how that works here. But I realized that that was their sense of normalcy because when they were in school, they that's what was happening. And so I felt like we had to kind of target that more quickly, work with folks who were kind of creating those conditions and maybe feeling like from a deficit mindset, they had to kind of drag kids across the stage. And that was really kind of what launched my transition and wanting to do culture and equity and kind of behavior work around that.
Very cool. Tell us a little bit about what drew you to Colorado and why you made a decision to stay in Colorado.
Yeah. I actually was really not sure about Colorado when I was coming out here. As a military kid, I moved around a lot. So I saw lots of different parts of the country and I even spent some time in Germany. But I don't know, something about Colorado, I was like, there's not a lot of Black people out there. Like, what does that mean for me? But I came out here for grad school and met a lot of really amazing people, including my wife, who loves it here and I love her. So I was like, well, I guess we're staying in Colorado. But I think that over time, I've really come to appreciate this space. I've met a lot of really incredible educators, activists, community members who just really care about the Denver community, the Aurora community, like what it means to be like born and raised in Colorado, the history of this place, the possibility of a future. And it's just kind of drawn me to it and made me really excited to contribute to that narrative.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad that you met Jenny and
I know. Me too. She's amazing.
Well, talk to us a little bit about even what drew you to higher ed, and then also specifically equity work.
Yeah. My experience, I went to UNC Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels. And my experience attending a predominantly white institution in the South was really unique in the sense that I was always a really good student, right? I like school was something that came pretty easily to me. But I was given messages over time around this is what it means for you to be a Black girl in school. Twice as good, half as far kind of rhetoric. And then when I went to UNC Chapel Hill, I felt like those messages kind of compounded, both in the way that like people would treat you, my professors would kind of interact, the assumptions they would make about what was possible for me. And then in just like the history of that institution in the South, right? And the fact that the history building there was named after, at the time when I was there, the former Grand Dragon of the North Carolina chapter of the KKK. The statues on campus that were memorializing people who were like staunch advocates for segregation and dehumanization of Black folks in the South and in general. I met in school some really amazing activists who were ready to like fight the good fight, push back, were constantly resisting against an administration that they felt like could and should do more for students of color on that campus. And it was really impactful for me in learning you don't have to stand for this, right? Like you don't have to learn how to bend and bob and weave in this world. You can, stand up tall and demand something better and choose a different path and choose a different future. And I really started to think about what's the role that I want to play in making that happen. So,
wow, thank you for sharing that. And tell us a little bit more about what it means to you to be a justice, equity, diversity, inclusion advocate.
Yeah, it changes, like some days it feels like a lot of pressure, to make sure that you're current, you're on top of things, you're always, modeling the way, right? And what it means to be that advocate. Other times it means choosing rest. And in a world that's constantly telling you have to be perfect and on top of things and excellent in everything, especially I think as a young Black woman, choosing to disrupt that and saying, how can I actively choose rest and myself and something different so that I can stay in this work because it is long and hard and ever changing. Some days it means putting your foot down, and saying, like, how do we call out bad behavior when it's causing harm to students and community? Other days it means calling folks in and having a compassionately accountable conversation and inviting folks to think about their responsibility in this work. But what you'll notice is that it's always about making a choice. And I think in this work, you can choose to opt in or you can choose to opt out, but there's a consequence either way. Ones that we see immediately and ones that kind of happen down the road. And for me, it's always the choice to opt in has always been the right one. So.
Yeah. So we've heard from you a little bit about some of your journey before coming to APS. Are there any experiences that you'd be willing to share with us that maybe shaped your approach to culture, equity, and engagement?
Oh man. I was an angsty grad student, right? Like everything was about sticking it to the man, fighting the system, lighting a match, watching things explode, just seeing what happens. And one day I had a mentor say to me, Jaelyn, you're really great at tearing things down that aren't meant for everyone. What are you going to build? And that really stuck with me because I realized that it was really easy for me to just say, that's a problem. This isn't serving folks. This is a racist, classist, sexist, like insert thing here, right? And kind of just throwing this mess on the table and leaving that for people to, do. It's your problem now. I did the work of calling attention to it. And I think that moment for me invited me to consider what my role is in building something new. And that is hard work. Um, and for me, I think that has really informed the way that I kind of approach this work today. Like, there are 100 things that we can point to and look at and say, that's not serving us. This is grounded in oppressive ideology, or this isn't considering the identities of our students and our community members. And once we name it and we see it, we can't unsee it. And now we have to do something with that. Right. And so how do we bring folks together to freedom dream, to try, fail, try again, but to move away from practices that we're just comfortable with because we've been told that that's the way it has to be. So I think thinking about what can we build.
Nice. This is actually a really good segue to my next question, which is just, who were some of the key mentors who have influenced your leadership journey?
Yeah. I think I'd have to start with Dr. Crystal King. She was my mentor in undergrad. She was the executive director of the Carolina Union at the time. And it was just so cool to see this Black woman who came in and instantly noticed, like, this ain't working and we're going to do something about it. And it was exciting to see someone just be, she was like the short Black woman too, who came in and like commanded a room. Like, you knew that she was about business. You knew you weren't there to just talk about it. We were going to be about it. And she was really cool to get to work under and get to learn more about leadership from. I'd say Dr. Bobby Kunstman as well, who was also a mentor at Chapel Hill. He ended up moving to Duke, which we don't discuss. I'm deeply offended by that choice, but he's thriving. And he was really great because he invited me to think more about just how dynamic identity is. I think I felt a lot in my life because I'm a multiracial kid. I identify as multiracial, Black, queer, like, right. And I think that, and he did too. And I think for a lot of my life, I felt like I had to choose, like I can only be about one identity or one cause. And he just invited more complexity into my life. And I'm really grateful. I don't think I would be who I am today without him. And then I can't not mention Dr. Kathy Cisneros and Carmen Rivera, who were my mentors here in Colorado, who pushed me and pushed me and pushed me and taught me that my understanding of equity work and power and privilege and marginalization, like, I was scratching the surface, but thought I knew everything about everything. And they were quick to be like, let me snatch you up real quick and introduce you to different pedagogy and thinkers and ways of understanding and knowing. And so, just amazing people.
I love it. Talk to us a little bit about what brought you to APS specifically 3 years ago.
Yeah. I, at the time, was working for the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, which was really cool to work for state government and to learn more about just the politics of that and complex organizations. Amazing people work there. I'm really grateful for them. And for me, I was not excited about waking up and talking about the social determinants of health. Like, I learned a lot, and I'm grateful that folks do that. But I was really missing education. And so when I saw this role come up, I was like, wow, this seems really cool. Kind of did some digging and learned that a role like this hadn't really existed before. And so I felt excited about the opportunity to try something new and to build something. I think learning about the Aurora community and just the history and the folks that are here and how just like the population has changed and this idea that it's the world in a city was really exciting. And so I just felt really encouraged by this opportunity and the students and families I'd get to work with and the people that were here. And when I was interviewing, learning that folks were like, I've been here for 19 years. I've been here, which is like not a thing anymore. People leave like, pretty quickly from their roles. And so, which is cool. And learning that people like maybe have a lot of things to say about what could be better, stronger, different, but choose to stay felt really exciting. And so I was really excited to be a part of it.
Good. Well, speaking of the good work that has happened in the last 2.5, 3 years, your team has been instrumental in several major initiatives. Can you talk to us a little bit about the work behind maybe the Board of Ed's LGBTQA plus resolution and or the immigrant community response task force work?
Yeah, I'm really proud of the LGBTQ plus resolution that we were able to pass with the board. We actually had board members come and say shortly after we passed the resolution on supporting our undocumented and mixed documentation immigrant students. Our LGBTQ community is hurting too as we're navigating this socio-political moment where we're getting a lot of messages about what it means to be different and other in this country. And I've also spent a lot of time with our LGBTQ affinity group and just hearing their stories and what it is like to be openly or not openly queer in public education. It felt really important to me also as somebody who is openly queer in public education to make sure that we took the opportunity to stand true to our values. In the South, we say y'all means all. And so I wanted to really champion that here as well. And so working with our students and our families and our affinity group, which is made up of staff members, and what does this really need to say? And then working with our team, the culture and equity team, and saying, now that we've done this, how do we follow through and make sure we're providing resources and training and coaching to make sure that schools can be welcoming and affirming places for our LGBTQ students and staff and families. So it's been hard work, but really rewarding work. The same is true for our immigrant response task force. I think the hardest thing about that group is that the work is ever evolving.
Right.
There's always something new coming down around policy or new, like even just AI, right? And like not knowing if community feels like there's a real threat of ICE activity or if it's made up, and like needing to be both proactive and responsive to things that sometimes feel like we don't know what we're doing, like we've never done this before. And we've had to do a lot of level setting around it feels uncomfortable because we've not done something like this before. And again, the wrong thing to do is to choose to opt out. So we're bringing together our leaders from across our system to have deep and hard conversations around what are the supports we need to provide for schools, students, and families. How do we plan, right? In the event of an emergency, what will we need to do? How can we be responsive? How can we make sure our leaders feel equipped to keep their kids safe, right? And keep our families safe? How do we not unintentionally stoke fear because we haven't asked the right questions around is something a legitimate concern? Or like I said, is it AI or something that's just kind of buzzing on social media? How do we listen to our community, right? How do we listen to folks that are being directly impacted, especially when you're somebody who maybe isn't being directly impacted, and check some of those assumptions. So it's been, like I said, some hard work, but really important work.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And there's so much that you and the team do. Actually going to do something fun. I think will be fun.
Okay.
And let you pick the next topic.
Ooh.
So you pick only one out of these three things.
Okay.
All right. SACs,
Mm-hmm.
IDI, or school as community hubs?
Ooh, let's do schools as community hubs.
Okay. So you sponsor our schools as community hubs
Yes.
strategy
Mm-hmm.
within the larger Destination APS strategic plan. Can you just explain to us a little bit about what that means and just how it connects to the bigger picture and plan for our district?
Yeah, absolutely. So we fundamentally believe on our team, and I would venture to say, like in APS, right? We fundamentally believe that happy, healthy, whole kids are able to show up and learn better than kids who are not experiencing that. And so the schools as community hub strategy is an intentional focus on making sure that we are really deeply understanding the students and families that we serve, um, creating the conditions for students to access their learning by providing for some of those basic needs, resources, experiential learning or extended learning opportunities, getting our community partners in so that kids have access to just different ways of learning or just having fun being kids, but really creating a network of schools where every school is responsive and intentionally cares for the needs of students and families so that they're excited to come to school, so that kids choose to opt in and are pumped about learning and don't have to think about things like food insecurity, or don't feel like, oh, all I do is sit at a desk all day and, there's no opportunities for me to play and learn differently and build relationships with my friends. Where we invite community partners in to help support with things that we maybe don't have the resources or expertise on. I think our community partners are really critical. And making sure we're getting our families involved, and not just in a sense of, a culture night or just through parent teacher conferences, but really seeing parents as partners in their students' learning. And so academic goal setting, right? Having intentional data conversations, equipping our families to ask their kids about what they're learning at home and keep that experience going. So it's really this idea that if a school feels like a community, kids want to be there. Yeah. And they're excited to learn, excited to keep coming back. And what's our responsibility to make sure that school feels fun and joyful and safe?
Amazing. As I think most of our listeners know, our Board of Ed recently adopted new goals and guardrails, one of them being really centered around early literacy, which in the next 5 years, we aspire to have 80% of our students reading at grade level by third grade. And you and the team have brought forward this really cool idea called Aurora Reads that would just love to give you the opportunity to tell our listeners a little bit about what that is and telegraph this exciting initiative we're about to embark on with our community.
Absolutely. We're so pumped for Aurora Reads. So like you said, we have this ambitious goal, right, of getting kids up to that 80% reading on grade level, and we're pumped about it. And I think what our team has really been wrestling with is a lot of times when we talk about these goals, we think about it as the board's goals, the district's goals, the school's goals. What we forget is that meeting these goals is in service of strengthening our community, right? And so how do we bring community in and get them really excited about meeting these goals? Because this is a part of pouring into community. And so what we are starting is Aurora Reads, which is this idea that we want to bring the city in on getting everybody reading and writing and really focusing on literacy across the Aurora community. So we're excited to partner with Cherry Creek School District on this, hopefully partner with the city of Aurora on this. And we're talking things like book nooks across the city and making sure that small businesses, have access to small book nooks. So when kids come in and they're waiting for a meal or they're getting a haircut, right, they're reading while they're doing that. We're talking reading captains across our neighborhoods who get to house books and are equipped with talking to their community about the importance of reading, the importance of like reading 20 minutes a day, even as a family, right? Yeah. And what that means for getting kids excited about reading. We're thinking like decals across the city, right? Where businesses are saying like, I'm a proud champion of Aurora Reads, and folks are just seeing this messaging all the time on buses, on signage across our city, yeah. And just really galvanizing the community of Aurora and creating this idea of shared responsibility for meeting that goal. And so we are pumped about it. We're excited to start launching some of this beginning next school year. So more information will come out about how folks can get involved.
That's amazing. Yes, shout out to the team, and here's a promo for Aurora Reads, and yeah, just hope everyone who's listening is able to see themselves as a partner in this work that Absolutely. We're embarking on. You've had the good fortune, I would say, of leading through change and leading growing teams and merging teams and new initiatives and through challenges that I think, as you mentioned, even just from like a socio-political context, that, you know, maybe we didn't have on our calendars. That, you know, we're going to
That's a great way to put it.
We're going to respond to this this year. And so, you know, in general, equity work requires both, you know, systems change and individual transformation. I know you're often thinking about change management, and so just curious what you've learned about creating sustainable change in a large, diverse district like APS.
Yeah, I think the thing that, and I learned this from a lot of the mentors in my life, is that the people are the point, right? A lot of times, and especially I think when you're in conversations and, you know, it's deep dives on data, you know, and we're talking about finite resources and there's 100 things we want to do, but limited time, space, capacity, money to do those things. And I think it becomes really easy to get very outcomes focused. And I think that outcomes are really important. But the people are the folks that make those things happen. And so what I've learned is taking the time to team, to build relationships, to invite opportunities for just sparring and engagement and being open to sharing your ideas, hearing others' ideas, coming in thinking that A is the path we're going to go down, getting new information, and then saying, actually, maybe we need to try B, I think are all really important pieces, because building shared responsibility for a common goal is what makes work sustainable over time. And of course, building systems and knowledge management, right? And how are we cross-pollinating so that folks are able to have a strong understanding of what's happening across a system. All those things are really critical too. But again, it's the people that make those things happen.
Yeah.
So,
what are books or resources that have influence your thinking maybe about either equity, diversity, inclusion, justice that you might recommend someone interested in learning more to pick up?
Okay, so right now we're reading The Four Pivots as a team. Sean Ginwright, he's amazing. He talks a lot about perspective, and I think takes this really personable approach to thinking about what is the relationship that every single person has with power, privilege, marginalization. I think a lot of what we're experiencing right now related to DEI rhetoric is because people make a lot of assumptions about what it is and what it isn't. And I think that he does a really nice job of is reminding us that it's ultimately about you as a person, and like Of course, the systems that we build, but again, people build those systems. But what is the world that you envision, and what's your personal responsibility for thinking critically about the experiences of others, how those relate to yours, being open to an experience that maybe you've never heard of, and then feeling, again, like a responsibility for practicing care over that person's experience. So that one comes to mind. Gosh, only because you asked me this question, I'm drawing a blank. I'd say Bell Hooks, All About Love, for sure. I quote Bell Hooks a lot because I think the way she thinks about education and Black women and liberation is really critical. I'd also recommend Sisters of the Yam, particularly for women of color, and just thinking about healing as a form of liberation as well. So yeah, those are ones.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A little bit of a lighter question, and you can choose how to respond to this. Either what songs or artists keep you energized in this work, and or what's like on your most played songs list?
Ooh, I'll go to most played songs because I'm a weirdo. Okay, so I listen to everything. I've been into Jungle a lot recently. They're actually coming to Red Rocks. I'm super pumped. So Jungle's really cool. Last year, my Spotify told me that Kendrick Lamar was my top artist, which I was like, yeah, that's
not like us on repeat.
Yeah, over and over again. Squabble Up, actually. That one, yeah, he's amazing. But then also I have moments where I'm like belting Darius Rucker, Hootie and the Blowfish. So I don't know. I listen to a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Cool. Lightning round. What does Destination APS mean to you, especially through that lens of equity?
Yeah. I've been really excited to answer this question because when I think about Destination APS, I think about being like that girl, right? Like everyone in Colorado is like, oh, you work for rural public schools? And we're like,
That's right.
Like, and people are like excited about being here and what it means to be an educator and a leader and a student here. And I think there's an element of like, prestige and like, like you got to know something about teaching and who that community is to be there. That really excites me, but it's also about because we do things differently, right? So we're not just prestige for prestige sake, but because like we are serious about culturally sustaining practices, and we are serious about partnering with community, and like you have to be serious about that too in order to be a part of this.
That's right.
And we see that as sacred, and so. Yeah.
Let's go. Lock it, as Nas would say. What excites you the most about the future of Seed's work and APS?
Yeah. I think what has been so cool is seeing the team get excited about wanting to both create and track impact. I think that we've had a lot of important and hard conversations around like, we can't just do engagement for fun. We can't just do equity for fun, right? Like we actually have to be able to point to something and be able to say, yeah, that mattered, that made an impact in the lives of our students or in the lives of our families. And seeing the team push each other in that thinking and then get really excited to bring that to schools, to networks, to their colleagues has been a delight. Recently, even it's been cool to see folks like push me, which, when you carry a title, sometimes I think people feel unsure, like, can I push back on that? Is that going to be right? And I think it's been really cool to have folks be like, I don't know about that. I'm like, all right, let's talk about it. And, again, being open to, I don't know everything about everything. And that's why we have a team of really smart, incredible people. So yeah, I'm excited about really thinking about the impact that we get to create. And then something that has really stuck is this idea of modeling the way. Our team says it all the time, like, how do I model the way here when things are hard? They shout each other out, shout out to Alyssa for modeling the way and how she did this, or shout out to B for how she did that, and it's just been really cool to see them champion that in our team and then across the system. And that's why I tell them all the time, like, It is easy when things feel hard, when we're in the thick of it, when we're not sure, if we're going to see, the seeds sprouts. We were big on the seed metaphor. To start pointing fingers or get really down on ourselves and each other. How do we model that we can do this differently? And the power of, again, choosing people and relationship and compassion and love, I think has just been really cool to see.
Good. All right, last question. What advice would you give to leaders working to create more equitable and inclusive teams?
Opt in, try, fail, try again. Really ask critical questions around whose voices are in the room, but whose voices are not in the room. And how do I hold myself accountable to getting perspective that I'm recognizing is not here? How do I pay attention to the ways that my upbringing, my experiences may be overly influencing direction? Find that third way. But again, really not being afraid to try and fail. Sometimes I think that we shy away from equity work because we're afraid of saying the wrong thing. Or we're afraid of making the wrong choice. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to make the wrong choice in this work, but it's about how you respond to that, how you atone for that, and then trying again.
And sometimes I think folks struggle with this norm of not saying the hard thing. Even if you've got the right words.
No, that's so true. And there's a lot of things I think that go into that, right? Power, positionality, all the things. But the more we allow for those things to slide, the more we normalize them.
Exactly.
So
cool. Jaelyn, thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey with us today, from the resolution to the task forces, from equity audits to the IDI work that's happening in the district. Your work through SEED is transforming how we show up for every member of our community, from students to staff to families to community partners. And I just want to say thank you for being an advocate for our entire APS community. To our listeners, invite you to join us next time as we continue exploring the paths of those who are helping guide us toward Destination APS. Until then, keep running your race with purpose.